Have you ever woken up to a brand new morning only to be greeted by that uncomfortable feeling in your throat, with thick mucus clinging stubbornly, and that familiar dry cough? That sensation does not just annoy you, it steals away the peace before the day has even truly begun. For so many older adults, this is not just a small nuisance, it feels as if the body is betraying them. And what is the truth? Most people simply sigh, brush it off, and tell themselves, it must be because I am getting older. But after decades of working with older patients, I can assure you that assumption is completely wrong. Persistent morning mucus is not an unavoidable part of aging. It is a red flag that your body is trying to send you. I have seen many people lose their confidence because of it. Some are embarrassed to sing during a church service, some avoid conversations with their grandchildren, and some even stay away from friends because they fear being seen as the one who always coughs and clears their throat. But I have also seen the joy and relief when they finally discovered the real cause and the simple ways to change it. In this video, I will guide you through 5 of the most common reasons behind this uncomfortable problem, and more importantly, the practical solutions you can start using tonight so that tomorrow morning can feel different. And let me tell you this, the final reason I will share is the one that few people ever suspect, but it has the power not only to relieve your discomfort, but also to restore your comfort and your dignity. So if you have ever wondered why your mornings begin with exhaustion instead of energy, stay with me until the very end. You may be surprised to discover that sometimes the real solution is much closer and far simpler than you ever imagined. Reason number 1. Postnasal drip. There is something that many older adults quietly endure but rarely mention, and that is the uncomfortable feeling when every morning begins with a throat coated in thick, sticky mucus. It does not cause sharp pain right away, but it brings countless troubles. A dry cough that does not stop the constant need to clear your throat, and the embarrassment when you sit in a quiet room and your throat keeps betraying you. This is the reality of postnasal drip. In younger people, the nasal passages work like a highly efficient, self-cleaning system. Tiny little hairs inside the nose called cilia act like a miniature cleaning crew, constantly sweeping away dust, bacteria, and mucus toward the back of the throat to be swallowed naturally. But over time, this mechanism begins to weaken. The lining of the nose dries out, losing the moisture needed for the cilia to work smoothly. If you imagine the nasal passages as a broom, then in old age that broom has become dry and worn, no longer sweeping effectively. The result is that mucus is no longer cleared properly. Instead of being removed smoothly, it slowly accumulates and drips down into the throat. That is why you always feel as if something is stuck back there, no matter how many times you swallow. That slow, silent drip is the culprit behind the chronic dry cough, forcing you to keep clearing your throat just to feel some relief. It may sound like a small matter, but for many, it becomes a heavy emotional burden. I once had a patient, a retired history teacher who used to take pride in participating in community events, especially at his church. But he confided in me that he had given up those joys because he could no longer bear the embarrassment of constantly coughing and clearing his throat in the middle of a quiet service. He did not have a serious illness, and he was not in pain. Yet this seemingly harmless symptom stole away his confidence, his self-esteem, and even his social connections. Postnasal drip does not only affect the body, it also touches a person's dignity. It makes you feel as though your own body is betraying you, making you different, even bothersome to others. Over time, that worry builds up, causing many older adults to withdraw, to participate less in community life, and eventually to lose the social connections that are so essential for emotional well-being. But here is the good news: you are far from powerless. There are very simple, inexpensive ways to reduce or even eliminate this problem. First, remember that gravity can be your friend. When you lie flat on your back, mucus naturally flows straight down into your throat and pools there. But if you prop up your head with an extra pillow, creating just a gentle incline, that flow can be controlled. It may sound too simple, but many of my patients have been surprised by the results. A small change in sleeping position can make your mornings far more comfortable. Also, do not forget that dryness is what makes this problem worse. If the room you sleep in is too dry, the nasal passages become even more fragile. In the winter, the heater constantly pulls the moisture out of the air. In the summer, the air conditioner often creates an environment as dry as the desert. At that point, the nasal lining, already weakened by age, becomes even more sensitive and produces more mucus. A small humidifier in the bedroom can bring surprising change. That gentle mist in the air soothes the nasal tissues, helps the cilia do their job better, and prevents mucus from building up. I also remember another story about an older gentleman named Frank. He had been a postal worker and had retired many years ago. For nearly a year, he woke up every morning with a throat full of mucus, coughing and spitting constantly. He tried everything, avoiding milk, taking allergy medications, changing his diet. Nothing worked. Until one day his daughter came to visit, noticed how dry the air in the house was, and bought him a humidifier for just $40. At first he was doubtful, but he agreed to try it. A week later he called his daughter with joy in his voice. The mucus had been cut in half. 2 weeks later it was almost completely gone. A simple change that cost very little had done what no medicine could. Moistening the air outside is one part of the solution, but keeping your body hydrated from the inside is just as important. Many older adults do not drink enough water, especially in the morning. When the body is dehydrated, mucus becomes thick and sticky, much harder to clear. That is why I often encourage patients to make it a non-negotiable habit. Drink a full glass of water as soon as you wake up. Do not wait until you feel thirsty, because by then your body has already been running low on water. What is fascinating is that many people, after improving the humidity in their room and maintaining the habit of drinking water regularly, not only saw their mucus problems decrease, but also enjoyed deeper sleep and felt more refreshed in the morning. This shows that small changes in environment and lifestyle can have a huge impact on the quality of daily life. The truth is, many people feel embarrassed to mention this condition to their doctor, thinking it is just a small nuisance or feeling too ashamed to bring it up. But staying silent only allows the problem to persist. If you are experiencing postnasal drip, speak up. Share the details of your symptoms with your doctor. The more clearly you describe what you are going through, the better your doctor can identify the true cause and give you the right advice. As we age, what matters most is not only how long we live, but how comfortably and confidently we live. Postnasal drip, if left unaddressed, can slowly erode that confidence and comfort. But once you realize that this is not a destiny tied to aging, but rather a condition you can manage, you begin to take back control. So next time you feel that lump in your throat, remember, it is not the price of getting older. It is your body's way of saying it needs a little more care, a little more moisture, and a few small adjustments in your habits. And often, it is those very small changes that bring the biggest difference, allowing you to welcome each morning with comfort and confidence. Reason number 2, silent reflux. If you think that the mucus you wake up with every morning must come from your lungs or your sinuses, then I have a surprising truth to share. Sometimes the culprit is not in the respiratory system at all. It can actually begin in your stomach. That may sound hard to believe, but this is the hidden reason why so many older adults struggle with a lump in the throat, a hoarse voice, and that thick, uncomfortable mucus when they wake up. Most of us, when we hear the words acid reflux, immediately think of that burning sensation in the chest after a heavy or spicy meal. That fiery feeling is what people typically recognize. But there is another version, one that is quieter and much more deceptive: silent reflux. Unlike the classic form of reflux, silent reflux does not leave behind the obvious burning pain. Instead, while you are sleeping, a small amount of acid slips out of the stomach, sneaks past the gate that is supposed to stay tightly closed, and makes its way into the throat and voice box. Your body is incredibly intelligent. The moment it detects those tiny drops of acid, it reacts instantly by producing a protective layer of mucus, much like applying ointment to a small burn on your skin. This is the body's natural defense. But when this reaction happens night after night, it becomes the reason your mornings start with a throat full of mucus, a raspy voice, and the sensation of a lump that refuses to go away. I remember clearly a patient named Emily, a 6'8" woman who came to me deeply worried. She was convinced she had chronic bronchitis. Every morning she coughed up thick chunks of mucus. She had tried antibiotics, allergy pills, and even herbal remedies, but nothing helped. When I examined her lungs, they were completely clear. There was no infection, no damage. This only made her feel more confused. After talking with her for a while, I asked about her evening habits. Emily laughed shyly and admitted that every night before bed she treated herself to a small bowl of ice cream or a glass of orange juice. It was her little joy at the end of the day. And then it clicked that sweet habit was actually the root of her misery. I suggested a 2-week experiment: no food within 3 hours before bedtime, no ice cream or orange juice at night, and add one more pillow to keep her head elevated while sleeping. Emily was skeptical, but she agreed to try. 2 weeks later, she returned with a bright smile. The morning coughing had almost disappeared. The mucus had dropped dramatically. The lump in the throat feeling was gone. The problem had not been her lungs or her sinuses. It had been her stomach quietly causing all the trouble. This is far from an isolated case. Silent reflux is extremely common in older adults. As we age, the lower esophageal sphincter, that small muscular door that separates the stomach from the esophagus, becomes weaker. It no longer closes as tightly as it once did. When you lie down, gravity no longer holds the acid in place, and small amounts can creep upward. Even though it may be a very small quantity for the delicate tissues of the throat and voice box, it is enough to cause ongoing irritation. This discomfort often confuses people. They think they have seasonal allergies, sinus problems, or worse, something wrong with their lungs. And when they cannot figure out the real reason, they fall into a cycle of worry. Why are the medicines not working? Why do the symptoms keep coming back? The important thing to remember is that you are not powerless. There are simple, practical changes that can bring long-lasting relief. First, adjust your evening habits. Try to finish your last meal at least 3 hours before going to bed. Avoid foods that are known to trigger reflux, such as chocolate, coffee, tomatoes, citrus fruits, and fried or greasy foods. Instead of a bowl of ice cream or a slice of cake, try a warm cup of herbal tea such as ginger or chamomile. These teas are gentle on the stomach, and their soothing aroma helps prepare you for a restful night's sleep. Sleeping position also matters. Just like with the first cause, we discussed propping your head up with an extra pillow allows gravity to help you keeping the acid from climbing back into your throat. Some people even choose to raise the head of the bed slightly, creating a gentle slope for the whole body. This can significantly reduce the chances of reflux during the night. And do not forget that what you do during the day affects your nights as well. Excess weight, chronic stress, alcohol, and smoking all weaken the lower esophageal sphincter more quickly. If you want your mornings to start with energy instead of exhaustion from mucus, adjusting these lifestyle factors is just as important. I also recall another patient, Carol, who counted that she cleared her throat more than 50 times a day. At first, she feared she had throat cancer, and that fear consumed her. But when she learned that the true culprit was silent reflux, she felt a wave of relief. She changed her dinner schedule, switched from late-night snacks to earlier meals, and replaced sweets with herbal tea. Within 1 month, her symptoms had almost completely vanished. Most importantly, she regained her confidence to speak, laugh, and enjoy time with her friends without worrying about constant interruptions. The point I want to emphasize here is this: sometimes the solution is not found in an expensive prescription, but in the small adjustments to your daily habits. With just a little awareness, a little observation, and some patience, you can regain both comfort and the dignity you deserve. So if you wake up every morning with a heavy throat, a raspy voice, and stubborn mucus that refuses to let go, take a closer look at your evening routine. The real culprit may not be your age or your lungs, it may be your stomach, quietly causing trouble while you sleep. And the good news is this: once you know this secret, you are already halfway to finding relief. Reason number 3. Dry indoor air. If you have ever woken up on a winter morning with a raw, scratchy throat, a stuffy nose, and thick, heavy mucus in your chest, there is a good chance the culprit is not inside your body at all. It may be the air around you. It may sound surprising, but the home we love, the place we consider warm and safe, can sometimes make morning mucus far worse. Dry air is a hidden enemy. In the winter, heating systems run constantly, giving us comfort while quietly stripping the moisture from the room. In the summer, air conditioners can create an environment as parched as a desert. A younger body may have nasal tissues strong enough to cope. But for older adults, when the lining of the nose and throat has thinned and the ability to hold moisture has faded, dry air becomes a real burden. The body is remarkably smart. When it senses that the lining is dry, it immediately switches into self-defense mode. Its only real weapon is mucus. It produces more mucus to hold moisture and to form a thin protective layer over the tissues. The problem is that when the air is too dry, this system gets overwhelmed. Instead of producing a thin, slippery coating, the body makes mucus that is thick and sticky. The result is a clogged, heavy feeling in the throat when you wake up, and a need to cough again and again just to move anything at all. I remember a patient named Frank, a 72-year-old former mail carrier. He told me he had been living with it for almost a year. Every morning his throat was jammed with thick mucus, and he had to spit repeatedly. He tried everything, avoiding milk, taking allergy pills, changing his diet. Nothing worked. Then one Christmas, his daughter visited, walked into the house and said, "Dad, the air in here is so dry." She went to a nearby pharmacy, bought a small humidifier for $40, and set it up in his bedroom. Frank did not believe something that inexpensive could help, but he tried it anyway. A week later, he called his daughter, surprised and excited. "I feel different. There is much less mucus this morning." 2 weeks later, the morning congestion had almost disappeared. Frank's story is not unusual. Many older adults do not realize that the indoor climate can be even more important than the weather outside. Most of us spend more than the majority of our day indoors, yet we rarely pay attention to the air we breathe. Each dry breath you take at night pushes your body to produce even more mucus to protect itself. The solution is not complicated. Start with a small humidifier in the bedroom. After just a few hours of use, the air will feel more comfortable. Your throat will be less dry, your sleep will be deeper, and your mornings will be easier. If you do not have a humidifier, an old-fashioned trick still helps. Place a ceramic or glass bowl of water near a heater vent or air register. The gentle evaporation through the night will help balance the humidity. Do not stop with the air around you. Nourish the body from the inside as well. Dehydration is common in older adults. Many people do not drink enough water, especially in the morning. When the body is low on water, mucus becomes thick and difficult to clear. One simple but powerful habit I recommend is to drink a full glass of water as soon as you wake up, even before your first cup of coffee. It works like a gentle rinse for the mucus that has built up overnight and gives your immune system and circulation a kind start to the day. When I suggest this, many patients laugh and say, "Doctor, I have had coffee first for decades. Drinking water first will be hard." But after a month of trying, many come back surprised. Their mornings feel lighter, there is less mucus, and their voices are clearer. It proves how small habit changes can make a big difference. Some people go a step further. They combine both approaches, a humidifier at night and a warm morning drink with a few slices of fresh ginger or a spoon of honey. They notice that mucus drops dramatically and they feel more energized. That sense of ownership and patience is the real key. Left unchecked, dry air does more than cause discomfort. Thick, stagnant mucus in the throat is a perfect breeding ground for bacteria and viruses. I have treated many patients who develop bronchitis or sinus infections over and over each winter. Antibiotics gave short relief, but the symptoms returned. Only when the root cause, the dry indoor air, was addressed did the cycle finally stop. A friend of mine, David, a former school principal, used to get a mild case of pneumonia at least once every winter. He assumed it was just age. But he noticed that when he spent a few winter weeks in Florida, his symptoms disappeared. The difference was the humidity. After he invested in a quality humidifier and paid attention to drinking water consistently, he made it through the next winter without a single illness. Here is what I want you to take away. Do not underestimate the power of your environment. You can buy nutritious foods, take supplements, and exercise regularly, but if the air you breathe every day is dry and moisture-starved, your body will keep struggling in the background. Treat better indoor humidity as natural preventive medicine. It will help you feel more comfortable, support your immune system, and lower the risk of respiratory infections. So if you wake up every morning coughing and clearing your throat because of thick mucus, do not look only to medicine or diet. Listen to your room. The air you breathe at night may be the true reason. The good news is that the solution is in your hands. With a few small changes and a bit of care, you can greet the morning with ease instead of fatigue. Reason number 4. The emotional burden of silent reflux. There is a truth that few people say out loud, and it is painful sometimes. The emotional shadow of a symptom hurts more than the symptom itself. Silent reflux is a clear example. It does not burn your chest the way classic heartburn does. It does not cause a dramatic, unmistakable pain. Instead, it quietly plants vague signs in your morning: a throat full of mucus, a hoarse voice, and the sensation of a lump that never seems to go away. Because it is so quiet, it often brings a heavier consequence: fear. I once treated a patient named Carol, 68 years old, lively and social by nature. By the time she came to see me, she had lost much of her confidence. Every morning her voice was rough and husky, and her throat felt as if a hard knot had formed. She cleared her throat dozens, even hundreds of times a day. She told me, "Yesterday I counted. I had to do it more than 50 times." That obsession wore her down hour by hour. One thought kept circling in her mind. What if I have throat cancer? Put yourself in Carol's place. You wake up, hear your own hoarse voice, feel the obstruction in your throat, and cough up thick mucus. You search your symptoms online. What comes up first? Serious conditions. Fear spreads fast like a shadow over the entire day. The sad part is that silent reflux is easy to misunderstand. Because there is no burning pain, people often assume the problem is in the lungs, in the sinuses, or worse, in the throat itself. When test results do not show anything alarming, they still cannot feel at peace. What if the doctor missed something? What if it is something more dangerous? Those questions gnaw at the mind. The longer the cause remains unknown, the bigger the fear grows. That fog of uncertainty slowly steals joy. People start avoiding phone calls because they worry constant throat clearing will interrupt the conversation. They decline social gatherings because they are tired of explaining why they cough so much. They step back from community life, even though social connection is one of the best medicines for emotional health. I remember how Carol sighed when she told me she had quit her book club, which used to be her favorite part of the month. Each time she tried to read a passage out loud, her voice broke and faltered. The sympathetic looks around the room made her shrink as if she were a burden. No life-threatening disease was present, but the embarrassment and anxiety wounded her deeply. A correct explanation can change everything. When I told Carol that her symptoms were likely due to silent reflux, a common condition in older adults, she was nearly in tears from relief. It was not cancer. It was not a hidden deadly illness. It was a simple mechanism. A weaker lower esophageal sphincter allowed small amounts of stomach acid to travel upward during the night, irritating the throat and triggering protective mucus. In that moment, it was as if someone turned on a light in a dark room. She moved from anxiety to understanding, from helplessness to action. She began eating dinner earlier, stopped lying down right after meals, and switched late-night sweets for a warm cup of tea. Over time, not only did her symptoms improve, but she also recovered her smile and the joy of conversation with friends. I share this story to emphasize a point. Sometimes what we need is not a new pill, but a new understanding. When you know the true culprit, fear is cut in half. The most frightening part is not the symptom, but the uncertainty. Uncertainty lets the imagination sprint ahead and paint the worst possible picture. It can cost you sleep, peace, and connection. This is the emotional weight that millions of older adults carry every day. They do not talk about it. They do not complain because they believe others will not understand. But deep down, they feel betrayed by their own body. That feeling, more than anything else, is what ages them faster. The solution goes beyond adjusting your diet, adding a pillow, or trading dessert for tea. It also lives in how you face the problem and how you talk about it. If you recognize these symptoms, ask your doctor a specific question. Could I be dealing with silent reflux? Do not simply say I have a cough. Be specific: hoarse voice in the morning, a lump in the throat sensation, and thick, stubborn mucus. That level of detail helps your doctor find the right diagnosis and guide you to the answers you need. Once you understand the mechanism, you are no longer a victim. You become the one in control. Instead of waking with fear, you can say, "This is my body responding to reflux. I know what to do." That small shift in thinking can bring a tremendous sense of peace. And that peace is as valuable as a healthy body. It helps you pick up the phone to call your grandchild, show up at church on Sunday, or stand and share a story at a family gathering. It restores the connections that science has shown to be some of the strongest medicines for longevity and happiness. So if you feel anxious when your morning begins with a heavy, mucus-filled throat, pause and take a deep breath. Do not let fear take over. Understanding silent reflux may be the first step toward reclaiming your confidence, your trust, and your inner calm. Reason number 5. Health risks from dry air and thick mucus. When it comes to morning discomforts, many people assume that mucus is just a brief annoyance. What not everyone realizes is that when thick mucus becomes stagnant, it does more than tire you out. It can become a genuine health risk. It is like a trap that your own body unintentionally sets for itself. Imagine this under normal conditions. Mucus acts like a gatekeeper. It is thin, slippery, and constantly moving to catch dust, bacteria, and viruses, and then escort them out of the body. It is a key part of your natural immune system, helping you stand up to countless threats from the environment. However, when the indoor air is too dry, and when the fragile linings in an older person's nose and throat lose the moisture, they depend on the mucus changes character. It is no longer thin and free-flowing. It becomes thick, sticky, and sluggish. This is where the trouble begins. When thick mucus builds up in the throat or in the lungs, it stops moving. Instead of providing a protective flow, it becomes a stagnant pool. And what happens in a stagnant pool? Bacteria multiply. Viruses find a perfect environment to thrive. What should have been cleared away becomes trapped, turning the throat and airways into a reservoir for germs. I have seen many people fall into this cycle. Every winter, they develop a sore throat, then sinus infections, and sometimes even pneumonia. They take medications and antibiotics, feel better for a few weeks, and then the symptoms return. They assume that aging has weakened their immune system. When we look closer, we often find the real culprit is the dry air inside the home. That dryness turns a protective layer of mucus into a welcome mat for bacteria. A friend of mine, David, a former high school principal, is a perfect example. For years, each winter brought a harsh cough, and sometimes he was confined to bed by a mild case of pneumonia. He blamed himself and believed that aging had made him fragile. Then something opened his eyes. Each year, he and his wife spent a few weeks in Florida in February. While there, he did not cough, he did not bring up mucus, and he did not need a single pill. But as soon as he returned home within days, the old pattern began again. That was when he realized the problem was not inside his body. It was in his environment. The natural humidity in Florida kept his mucus thin and mobile, allowing his immune system to function normally. Back home in the winter, with the heater running and the air bone dry, the mucus became perfect fuel for bacteria. Once he understood this, David invested in a quality humidifier, placed it in the bedroom and the living room, and he began drinking more water, especially in the morning. The result was remarkable. The following winter, he did not have a single episode of pneumonia or a single lingering sore throat. There is a powerful lesson in his story. The air we breathe every day does not just affect comfort, it directly influences your ability to prevent illness. When you allow thick mucus to accumulate, you open the door to sickness. When you keep the air properly humidified and keep your body well hydrated, you help your immune system do exactly what it was designed to do: stop invaders at the front gate. Many people dismiss buying a humidifier or drinking an extra glass of water as small habits not worth the effort. Consider a different view. These are some of the simplest, least expensive, and safest forms of preventive care available to you. A room with healthy humidity is like a shield that protects the nasal passages, the throat, and the lungs, keeping tissues from cracking and breaking down. When that first line of defense is strong, bacteria have far fewer chances to gain a foothold. You may know the feeling. A stubborn cough drains your energy, then a sore throat follows, and suddenly you spend a week exhausted and taking medications. Now imagine that with a small humidifier, a simple bowl of water near the heater, and a warm glass of water in the morning, you could avoid that entire stretch of misery. That is a wise investment. Modern science supports this. When the mucosal lining is well hydrated, the tiny cilia in the nose work more effectively, and the mucus remains thin, sweeping away bacteria and debris. In dry conditions, the cilia slow to a crawl, the mucus becomes thick and small, pockets of inflammation form. That small difference can determine whether you enjoy a healthy winter or spend it visiting the clinic again and again. Here is what matters. Health is not decided only by big interventions like medications or surgery. It also lives in the small, everyday choices that you can make for yourself. Dry air and thick mucus are not destiny. They are your body's way of asking for more mindful care. See the air around you as part of your health plan. It is not invisible and harmless. It can be the source of your fatigue, or it can be the reason you feel lighter and more comfortable. The best part is that you can control it. If every winter you find yourself living with thick mucus, dry coughing, and sore throats, consider a new approach. Instead of chasing symptoms, prevent the problem at its source. Give your body the chance to breathe in properly humidified air so that your mucus can perform its noble duty to protect you, not to trouble you. My friend, there is a stubborn belief that has followed too many older adults for too long that waking up every morning with a throat full of mucus, a hoarse voice, and a relentless cough is an unavoidable part of aging. The truth is otherwise. Your body is not fighting against you. It is sending you messages and gentle reminders that say, "Please take better care of me." Over the years, I have watched hundreds of patients change their lives with small steps, adding an extra pillow for better sleep, drinking a glass of water right after waking, avoiding late-night meals, and simply placing a humidifier in the bedroom. These were not expensive pills or complicated procedures. These gentle changes help them breathe easier, speak clearly, and return to conversations with confidence. I believe that aging does not mean surrender. It is the time when you deserve more comfort than ever and the chance to enjoy true peace in every morning. The wonderful news is that you can claim that for yourself. Starting today, make one small promise: I will listen to my body. Perhaps you will begin with a warm glass of water in the morning. Perhaps you will let go of late-night snacking. Perhaps you will add one more pillow before bed. Each small step can unlock a larger change in your health journey. Remember, this aging does not take away your dignity. Only giving up on self-care could do that. Morning mucus is not a life sentence. It is a signal, and you have every right and every ability to answer that signal with care and kindness toward yourself. Treat this not only as a way to ease a symptom, but as a proactive act to protect your health, to rebuild your confidence, and to preserve your dignity in the golden years of life. And remember, you are not alone on this path. There is a whole community learning to live healthier, happier, and more energetic lives no matter their age.